Hello everyone! In today's video we're going to see how to connect a remote server using SSH. SSH stands for Secure Shell Connection. It uses the client-server model. In our tutorial we're going to connect to a remote Ubuntu server, and this will be the server side from my laptop, which is the client side. So let's look at the server side. It is a virtual machine installed in my laptop. I will start it now. The server is starting. This will be the server that we will need to connect to. So I will log in. Great, it's logged in now. I will change the key because I have because I have a French keyboard. Okay, it's changed now. So first, let's check the SSH server if it is installed in our server. So to do this, we'll have to check the SSHD service status. Service. Okay, the service could not be found. Okay, that means that the SSH server software is not installed in the server. We need to install it, otherwise we will not be able to connect to it using SSH. Okay, but before this, let's make it clear what is a client-server model. A client-server model is based on a connection between two sides. The first one is a client, and the client is sending the requests, whereas the server is processing the request and providing the service. In our case, the service is the SSH access to the server. So we need to install it. So in Ubuntu, to install the service, in general, we will use the apt-get to install it. So let's do it now. Sudo apt-get install open SSH server. This is the name of the SSH server in Ubuntu. Installing. Okay, great. It means the installation is finished. Now let's check again our SSH server service, and now it is active and running, as you see here. So what we will do next, we can start checking the IP address. This is important because we need the IP address to access from client software. So we can use ifconfig or IPA. Okay, let's use ifconfig. Here we see the IP address 192.168.56.101. This is the IP address we need of our server, and we need to use in the client side in order to send an SSH request. So I think we are ready now from the server. Okay, another thing, sorry. Sometimes you will need to check the firewall in the SSH server because sometimes the firewall is not allowing SSH request to come to the server. So you need to know that SSH protocol, which is a protocol using TCP IP, so the transport is the TCP, and the port used for the SSH firewall has a number which is 22. So we will need to allow this port number on the firewall. So in Ubuntu server, first we can check the status of our firewall, if it is active or not. Okay, in this case it is inactive, so I'm sure I will not have any problem regarding denial of SSH request since the firewall is inactive. But in case it is active in your computer or in your server, you can allow the 22 port in your firewall TCP. Okay, I will try it now, even if it... Okay, rules are updated. This is to make sure the 22, the port 22 is allowed in your firewall. Okay, so now we can move to the client side. I will go to my laptop, which is the client side, and I will need to use a client software. In my case, I will use a putty. I've used this software for many years now, and you can find other SSH clients softwares, of course. You can choose anyone. In our example, we will use putty. So I will load the IP address. This is the IP address of the server. We've checked it before. I have loaded SSH port 22, you can see here, and I will open the connection. Okay, I will have this message for the first time to check the SSH key. I will just click yes. Sorry, I have my keyboard on my putty and many softwares installed in French, but no problem, I will translate when needed. Okay, so I will put the user password, access denied. Okay, so access denied. What could be the reason? This is a good issue to troubleshoot in our tutorial and to learn at the same time. Okay, so access denied. I think we need to check the configuration file for SSH, because by default some parameters are set and having some values, and we need to check them to see if we need to change some of them or no. So we'll go to the etc SSH, okay, ls, and SSH deconfig. We will see SSH. Okay, remember this directory, etc SSH, in which you will find the configuration files for SSH. I will open this file to check. Okay, permit login, permit root login, prohibit password. So by default, the permit root login is prohibited, is set to prohibited password. We need to change this this value. I will use vi. You can use any editor to change this. Okay, so permit root login. I will delete this, and instead I will type yes. Okay, so I will save and quit the file, and I need to restart SSH service. To do this, I will use always sudo service SSH d restart. So we'll need to restart in order to let the changes made to the config file to take effect. And I will restart. Okay, now it's done. Let's try again. Okay, I will restart this session. Restart session. Root. I will type password again. And now it's logged in. Great. We have enabled the login with the password in the server side to let the client side log in and send some commands. Okay. So now that we have access to our server, we can execute some commands. Okay, let's try this. pwd. Okay, we are in root directory. We can change the directory. Okay, we can go to another. Okay, we'll make ls. Great. Here we see the directories. Can make ls with details to see details. You can use the top command. Okay. Here I'm in my laptop and I'm executing commands in the server, which is a remote server. It can be in my laptop in this tutorial, but it can be in another location, far location. The most important is that I have the IP address of that server, the login, the user and password, of course, and I need to have an SSH client software in my laptop, for example, putty, and the SSH server must be installed in the server side. These are the conditions to have a successful SSH connection. Can try cd can try to access the same directory of the configuration file here from SSH. And we see we have the files, and this is the end of this tutorial. I hope it was a helpful one. See you in the next video.